Welcome, greetings, and salutation to the golden option. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Salam, salam, salam. May peace, peace, peace be upon us all. I think that this is series number 3, relative to the study of the 27th book from the book of Genesis, which is namely Daniel, and the 27th book from the book of St. Matthew, which is the Revelation. What we're going to do is simply to use the question and answer format. In other words, you, the viewers, and the students in the audience here, will write me questions, and I will do all within my anthropological power to attempt to answer your questions. And remember, technically, I have entitled this new series The Pro-Consider-Vocative Interrogatorial Questionings with Approximate Tentative Explanatory Resolutions. And I say this because God has all of the answers, people. Only God, Almighty Shagadbat, hits the bull's eye. He hits the Matitaurus. Matitaurus is bull's eye in Greek language. Okay? And at best, I tell you what I will do. I will practice my aim at hitting the stochos. Stochos. Stochos in Greek means the target. I will hit the target for you. So, why don't we unintermittingly progress into our concatenational question and answer format? Okay? I believe the last time I did not complete the answering of one of the letters written in. And that question was, Dr. Abraham, what is the expression Draco Viri Manticolatry in the light of the book Daniel and the book of Revelation? That is a very, very notable question. What is Draco Viri Manticolatry, in which all of the world stands, let's say, guilty before the Creator God? Well, let me write it on the board for you, because essentially Draco Viri Manticolatry is the crime that most of the habitable world stands guilty of. Now, Draco, as you can see there on the board, is one of the Greek words for a dragon, mainly the mythological dragon. Okay? Thiri is another Greek word from Thirion, Thirios. It simply means wild animal, wild carnivorous beast. Okay? Manticolatry, from the word mantic in the Greek language, conveys the idea of a pseudo-oracle, a soothsayer, a false prophet. And of course, when we read in the book of the Apocalypse, and I believe it's the 20th chapter, it speaks of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet being cast alive in the brimstone fire lake. Okay? Now, prophetically speaking, the Thirio Mantic, virtually speaking, is Hallel ben Shaka, that is the Lucifer, which transformed himself into the Satan, or the Phosphoros, one of his appellations in Greek. Phosphoros means light bearer. Lucifer means light bearer. And Hallel ben Shaka simply means the sun, the boastful sun. Now, down through the annals of, let's say, prophetic history, the dragon element, the bestial or Thirianic element, and the mantic element of the Thirio Mantic was divided into three world religions. Okay? According to the truth, there are collectively three basic fundamental world religions. And prophetically, according to the exposition of the Sabbath school disciplinarian prophets, the dragon or dragonism would represent what we call paganism. Okay? In fact, why don't I just put apostate? Paganism. Why do we call paganism apostate? Well, deductive reasoning should signify to us that institutional apostate paganism was at one time in prophetic history the truth. And for no other reason, we refer to it as apostate paganism. Did you know that you could actually call world religions apostate world religions? Apostate Hinduism? Apostate Jainism? Apostate Buddhism? Apostate Taoism? Apostate Shintoism? That's right. So, dragonism or paganism is apostate because it came out of the glorious effulgence of truth at one time. You see? But because it became paralyzed and stagnant for whatever reason, it could not grow. It could not develop. It could not flourish in terms of the progression of authenticated truth. Now, let's go to the beast, or the virion. The bestial qualities of the dragon we could call the apostate beast. Okay? Why don't I just put beast here? The apostate beast. Well, why do we call it the apostate beast? Because the beast was also a part of the truth at one point in time in prophetic history. But you see, it also became, let's say, stagnated, paralyzed. Okay? The beast, by and large, could represent more or less a government, the state, the visible, tangible state. Okay? The dragon qualities are more or less the invisible head of the visible, bestial, virianic pagan state. Okay? Now, the mantic is simply the tongue, the voice, the sayings of the dragon beast. Okay? And of course, our Sabbath school disciplinarian prophets refers to this mantic, this false tongue, this mythifying, mythical mythologist, as a false prophet. Okay? So the latri, which is the suffix of the manticolatry, of the Dracoviri manticolatry, is the worship of, okay, Dracoviri manticolatry. This basically, or should I say, these features of Dracoviri manticolatry are the actual reasons for which Hallel bin Shaka was cast out of the heavenly sanctuary. And as I have vociferated to you on many occasions before, that this disposition has become a part of our human nature, our inherent, intrinsic, inborn, innate, native, unconditional human nature. Okay? Now, according to the prophecies relative to these three world religions, paganism, Viri or beast, and Mantic, we would translate these three powers, let's say, into these. Number one, Dragonism equals apostate paganism. Virianism or bestialism would represent Roman Catholicism. That's number two. Notice, these are the world religions in the world. There are only three of them. And number three, Manticism, Manticolatry, Manticology would manifest itself indeed as apostate Protestantism. Okay? You think about it. Three world religions, of which, out of whose pale there is no salvation. Apostate paganism, apostate Roman Catholicism, apostate Protestantism. This is what the book of the Apocalypse and the book of Daniel the prophet are attempting to unveil. And remember, these three world religions are not something that is mainly objective, mainly, let's say, extrinsic. But these three world religions, as I have indicated earlier, is made out of the fabric of human nature. See? This is the self-worship, self-glorification, self-veneration, let's say, exaltation, which became the first arrogance and hortification of which Halel bin Shaka was cast out of the heavenly sanctuary, out of the abode of the bliss, into this world. And all of these characteristics, qualities, and attributes was embraced by Adam and his wife, Chava. Chava in Hebrew means Eve. Okay? And these apostate elements, which work throughout human nature, unfortunately have established itself as God's Almighty Lord Shagadbat's chief rival. Okay? In other words, apostate paganism is anti-Shabbatocracy, anti-bara Shabbatocracy. The Shabbatocracy is the government of God. You might want to call it the Sabbathocracy. The government of God is based on his power to create. Let me share something with you before I go back to answering your question of the Thirio Mantic. Why don't we take this imagery here and we'll call this the creation. Okay? The creation. The creature, the created. In other words, God created everything in this vessel here, whether it be angels, seraphic beings, cherubian beings, or any other, let's say, hetero-ontological beings, including man. Everything is created, represents this vessel here. All right? Everything. Now, let us take this golden lid here, and we will place this as the seal of the creation. Now let me tell you something, people. When I say creation, I don't just mean the solar system. I mean everything that was ever created by the Creator is represented by this vessel here. This cup that you see on this vessel, this creature vessel, created vessel, creation vessel, is the Shabbat. The Shabbat, the Sabbath, the seventh-day Sabbath. This seal or sign seal or seal sign represents the power or dynamics of the Creator God's creatability. Nothing was created after the seventh day of the week? Nothing. Okay? This Sabbath seal is what the apostate paganism, apostate Roman Catholicism, apostate Protestantism is virtually opposed to the seal of God's creative power. This seal, my friends, encapsulates everything that was created. On every atom, molecule, things visible and invisible that was ever created in the universe is represented by the Sabbath seal of the creation. Did you know that the Shabbat, or the Sabbath seal, is the stamp on everything created, and it was made for everything created, including man? Huh? You think about that. The Shabbat, people, is immovable. We glorify the Creator God by celebrating His power to create. This is so very important that we understand. Okay? And world religions, by and large, are very manifestly jealous of Almighty Lord Shagad Bhat. Did you know that? They are jealous of His creatability. And that's why they refuse to countenance His cosmogonic sign, which is the symbol of His creatability. And there has been Babylon in the past has made drastic attempts to remove the Shabbat, the concept of the Shabbat, out of the cerebral thinking of the people. The Shabbatocracy is the government of God. In fact, the word for seal in Hebrew language is called khatam. Khatam. Let me hear you say khatam. Very good. The khatam, when placed in the heart of the Shabbat, becomes the Shah Khatam Bat. It is the movement on earth of manifest destiny. Okay? And I think I talked about that before. The people of God on earth is not the typical church as we conceive of a church to be in our culture, but it is a sabbatical movement of manifest destiny, showing itself different than all religious denominations, then all frescological halls of worship, then all ideological concepts of the God in every way and facet. This is why the people of God, we call in Hebrew Amiel, are virtually called a peculiar people. See? A peculiar people. And a peculiar people is a peculiar people. They are different from all other people in terms of their belief system and worship. Now, in ancient Babylon, the chief god in rival with the god of the Sabbath was called Shamash. May I write Shamash on the board here? Are you finished with this? Okay. Very good. Salamat po. Shesheni. Arigato. Efkaristo. Let me spell on the board here the chief sun god that rivals against the Shabbatocracy. Shah, Shamash. Shamash in ancient Babylonian dialect simply means sun. Okay? It was the chief object of worship in the Old Testament world. But you can also call Shamash Shagadmash. Okay? Shagadmash. All right? Now, Shagadmash is Shagadbat's chief rival, and has always been the chief rival of Shagadbat. Okay? See Shabbat? See? This is the seventh day Shabbat. Shagadmash. Okay? The day of, let's say, Shagadmash follows the day of Shagadbat. All right? Shagadmash always tend to follow after Shagadbat. All right? Let me give you a typical example. In biblical chronology, a day begins at sundown. I think we discussed that the last time. Now, according to the pagan state, they calculate their, let's say, next day at 12 o'clock midnight. You see how Shagadmash follows Shagadbat? Shagadbat comes first. Then Shagadmash implicates himself second. Okay? So when we think of days of worship, the Shabbat comes first. At sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. After, let's say, the Sabbath, comes what? Shamash. Yoma Shamash. as we call in the Babylonian dialect. Yom HaShamash means the day of the sun, or the day of the sun god. This has been the principle ever since the establishment not only of ancient Babylon, but also the establishment of Kayenistan. Kayenistan. You say, oh, what is Kayenistan? Kayenistan is simply the government of Cain. You remember the Cain that slew his brother Abel, and he went into the land of Nod, okay, and there he built a civilization, and he called that civilization after the name of his son Enoch. See, you could call Kayenistan Enochistan, same thing. Well, you see, people, Sunday worship is nothing new throughout pagan and prophetic history. In the days of Noah, all of the then known inhabitants worshipped on the day following the Shabbat. Okay? You could call that day following the Shabbat simply post-day Shabbat. See? The day after the Shabbat, which we call today Sun's Day. See? Now, if you read your Torah, people, correctly, there were no names given to the days of the week. Ordinal numbers were given to the days, but not names except one. Okay? The first day of the week was actually called day one. Yom Echad. We call that in Hebrew. Yom Echad. Day one. Day two, Yom Sheni. Day three, Yom Shlishi. Day four, Yom Rivi'i. Day five, Yom Chamishi. Day six, Yom Shishi. And day seven, Yom Shabbat. Okay? Now this is biblical, people. It's very important that we understand that the Shabbat is the biblical Shabbat, and no organization on earth can make claims to the Shabbat except the Word of God. Did you know that? Did you know, and I'm going to have to say it like this, that the Shabbat was the stamp of creation in the world 2,300 years before there was a Jew. Think about that. Before there was a Jew, the Shabbat had made its claim on the solar system. Do you think that Judaism have any monopoly over the seventh-day Sabbath? Answer, no. Do you think that the Seventh-day Baptists have a monopoly on the seventh-day Sabbath? Answer, no. Do you think that the Seventh-day Worldwide Church of God have a monopoly on the seventh-day Sabbath? Answer, no. Do you think that the Seventh-day Pentecostals have a monopoly on the Sabbath? Answer, no. Do you think the black African Jews, called the Falashas, have a monopoly on the seventh-day Sabbath? Answer, no. Do you think the Seventh-day Adventists have a monopoly on the seventh-day Sabbath? Answer, no. You see, people, it is the Toratological Sabbath, not the Sabbath of organizations. All right? Every truth that we find in the Torah, in the Tanakh, in the Holy Bhaktan, in the New Testament, is the property of the Al-Kalimat Allah, the Word of God, not man. Okay? It is so very important that the Sabbath school disciplinarian instructor point the people back to the Holy Scriptures. See? Why? Because all truths are contained in Holy Scripture. The Holy Scriptures are their own inherent expositors of truth. See? The Holy Scriptures don't need me, you, or anybody else to explain it. They are their own expositors, people. And of course, with the agency of the, let's say, third person of the Godhead, the Holy Scriptures can be comprehended and understood. Okay? So it is very important that we understand the principles and the dynamics that lies behind the great conflict between these 2 days. Yom HaShamash and Yom HaShabbat. Okay? And remember the last time we talked about the Shabbatocracy in light of the Sundayocracy. Sundayocracy is as old as the inhabitants of Kayenistan, Nord Inokistan. That was the civilization before the flood. Okay? And the Shabbat, that is the ancient Shabbat, which is the missing truth for these days and times. Has stood the forces of time. And don't you think that, let's say, the Jews, that is the Orthodox Jews, who had the Shabbat all the way up until now, and you hear about anti-Semitism and all of this kind of thing. Well, really, people, it's not as much as anti-Semitism or anti-Shemitism as it is anti-Shabbatism. Okay? Shabbatism is what Jesus taught. Jesus was a Shabbatocrat. He was the Lord of the Shabbat. And of course, I have informed you that this question regarding sin is not man's property, okay? Not man's property at all. It's the property of an angelic personality. And this angelic personality is neither God nor man. And this angelic personality has purposed in his heart to become God himself, and therefore establish his own worship day, which is the day after the Shabbat. This is a very, very deep subject, people. And certainly, I cannot cover it in 1 hour. Nevertheless, be cognizant of the fact that your adversary and my adversary is not another human being. All right? It's far greater than you, than flesh. Did not the Apostle Paul tell us that we wrestle not against what? Human beings. Flesh and blood. Isn't that what a human being is? He said, we wrestle not against human beings, but against principalities. Okay? These principalities in high places were around people before you and I were born. They were warring against their God, Almighty Lord Shagadbat, before you and I were conceived. Did you know that? There was war against God before the invention of man. There were wars in the heavens. See? But you see, on earth, man, through ignorance, becomes a part of the, let's say, controversy against the truth. And as a result, through ignorance, man, that is the credulous masses, join the enemy against the Shabbatocracy. And what is the Shabbatocracy again? The Shabbatocracy is the government of God. Maybe I should write this down for you. Why don't I? Okay. Shabbatocracy. It can also be called Bara. Shah. Bara Shabbatocracy. Okay? Bara meaning creator. Okay? Not just theocracy. Theocracy is too, I think, abstract just to say theocracy. Okay? Unless you want to say Theo-Shabbatocracy, that's different. Okay? So, nevertheless, the Thirio Manticism is the doctrines that the leader of the Board of World Education has formulated for mankind. Okay? And the Thirio Manticolatry process goes on in the hearts of Christian and also non-Christian. See? All it is, people, is the chain of command self-worship. See? The Mantic worships the beast, and the beast worships the dragon, and etc. So I hope that I kind of answered your question. I know I took a long way around to answer it, but that's the basic concept of the Thirio Mantic in the light of the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. Okay? And really, people, we don't know that we are worshiping ourselves. See? The self-worshipper, by and large, he doesn't really know that he's worshiping himself. Even when he says he's worshiping God. See? This is how powerful the hyperifany philotemian works in the heart are. Okay? Pride and arrogance have their way of blinding us to the point where we actually believe that we are worshiping God when in essence we are worshiping ourselves in the name of God. And this self-worship, let me erase this here, can also be called in my symbol bondmen. Okay? Bondmen. You say, what is bondmen? Bondmen simply means this. B stands for beast. Okay? O stands for of. N stands for number. M stands for mark. I stands for image. And N stands for name. Okay? See? The beast, of, the number, the mark, the image, and the name. See? This technically is what human nature is virtually all about. All right? But the book of Revelation, more or less, gives mankind the last warning. Okay? See, we're all worshiping ourselves in the form of the mark of the beast, in the form of the name and the number and the image of the beast. Okay? But it is not official yet. See? It is not irrevocable yet. Okay? And as someone asked me the other day, what is the mark of the beast? Well, technically, the mark of the beast is simply irrevocable self-worship. Okay? The mark of the beast, you could call it paracletical blasphemy. One who blasphemes, irrevocable blasphemes the Holy Spirit. This technically is what the mark of the beast is, people. That's right. The mark of the beast, and let me repeat myself again, technically is paracletical blasphemy, which is simply the irrevocable blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, or the irrevocable blasphemy against the paracharismaclete. That ultimately and technically is what the mark of the beast is. However, in the last days, this paracletical blasphemy will take the form of Sunday worship relative to Sabbath sacrality. In other words, Shabbat and Sunday are the options in the last days. They stand for symbols of either self-worship or the worship of the true and the living God. That's what the issue is coming down to. All right? So, virtually, I think that I've answered your question. Maybe I didn't. Well, let me see. I think we have another question. I don't know if I have time to answer it, but let's see. The question says here, Dr. Ben Abraham, would you please clarify for me the prime number of the beast? The prime number of the beast. Very, very good question. You want me to clarify for you the prime number of the beast, huh? Okay, why don't we at least start off? I may not be able to finish it today, but we'll just start out, okay? All right. What is the number of the apocalyptic beast? Anybody? All right. So we'll put here 666. 2 go into 666 how many times? Very good. Okay. 3 go into 333 how many times? Very good. 3 go into 111 how many times? Okay, there it is. 2 times 3 to the second power times 37 is 666. But I cannot go into details with you right now. But next time, I will try to clarify for this person the prime number of the beast. So my time is over right now, unfortunately. But remember, the golden option is yours. And also remember, don't curse the darkness, light the candle. Until next time, shalom, shalom, shalom. Salam, salam, salam. May peace, serenity, and bliss be upon us all. Welcome, greetings, and salutation to the golden option. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Salam, salam, salam. May peace, peace, peace be upon us all. I believe that this is series number 4. And why don't we just continue without any intermission along into our progress into the question and answer format, which I humbly call the pro-consider-vocative interrogatorial questionings with approximate, tentative, explanatory resolutions. Okay? So I think that we have some more questions coming in. And the last time I was getting ready to answer this particular question, but unfortunately the time had run out. So why don't I go over this particular question for you. Listen what the question states. Dr. Ben Abraham, would you please clarify the prime number of the 666 beast for me, and the relationship with the 50 states of our country and Christmas? Boy, that's a very, very interesting question. Let me reiterate that again. Dr. Ben Abraham, would you please clarify the prime number of the 666 beasts for me, and the relationship with the 50 states of our country and Christmas? Well, I did refer to the prime number of the beast as actually being the mystic number of the beast, and in fact the prime number of the beast is what really the people ought to be investigating, not necessarily the exoteric number of the beast, which is, ocularly speaking, 666. What we should be asking ourselves the question is, what is the prime number of 666? And if we could discover the prime number of 666, then that would be the esoteric number of the beast. Okay? So why don't I show you the prime number of the beast and how the system works. Are you ready? All right, let's go. Now I wrote on the board, as you can see here, the number of the apocalyptic beast, as you can see here, according to Revelations, the 13th chapter, and I believe beginning with verse 18. And it says words to this effect: here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. Okay? Now, how do we understand this biblical prophetic phraseology? Except someone comes and qualify this for us. Well, let me try to paraphrase that for you, if I may, so that even a child could understand it. Okay? Listen. Revelation, the 13th chapter, and verse 18. Here is mathematical or arithmetological wisdom. Okay? In other words, the here is a gift of God. Okay? Here is, that's a gift of God. One must have the wherewithal to ask Almighty Lord Shagadbat for the wisdom, that is the arithmetological wisdom, to calculate the number of the apocalyptic beast. Of course, John apparently asked God for the gift to understand the computation of the apocalyptic beast. And subsequently, we see it there in Revelation, the 13th chapter and 18th verse. For God gives it to him. He said, here is wisdom. Let him that have arithmetological understanding compute or count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. Well, let us find out what kind of man that would have this number. Now, this particular man would be an apostate man. Okay? And invariably, it would suggest that this man represents a system. Okay? An apostate system. It is very, very important that we understand that this system is a collection of people with one representative man. Without the people supporting, let's say, the apostate man, then the apostate man would be powerless to execute his ideals for the goals of the pagan state, which opposes the Shabbatocracy. And of course, you understand in these lectures that the Shabbatocracy is the government of God. Notice 666. Let us try to break this 666 number down to its prime number, which cannot be divided by 2 other than itself. 666 divided by 2 equals what? Very good. 333. For 2 times 333 is 666. Very good. So since 2 cannot go into 333 evenly, we go up to the next number, 3. 333 divided by 3 evenly is what? Excelente. 111. Okay? Now, 111 divided by 3 equals what? Answer. 37. Okay? Now, we have just discovered the prime number of the apocalyptic beast. For the text says, here is wisdom. Let him that hath arithmetological understanding count the number of the beast. In other words, reduce the number of the beast, which is exoterically 666, down to her prime number, which is 37, because 111 divided by 3 is 37. Very good. And 37 cannot be divisible evenly by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, or 8, or 9, or 10, 11, 12. See? So 37 becomes the, how could we say, astronomical, astrological equation reducing the 666 down to 37. Now, let me enlighten you a little more on this 666 and its prime number being 37. Remember, I showed you that Babylon, Bak Cosmobel, right here in Hebrew language, is called Babel. Scholarly Hebrews call it Bavel. See? Because the B and the V is interchangeably. Babel. The mathematical value of this bet here, called in the Hebrew language, it's a B, is 2. Okay, the B represents 2. Then we have another B here, represents 2. Okay. Then we have an L here called Lamed. Its mathematical value is 30. Okay. So if you were to compute Babel in the Hebrew language, its gematria would come out to 34. For 2 and 2 is 4. Plus 30 is 34. Is that correct? Thank you very much. Now, we won't go into the 3 plus 4 equals 7. Of course, we could do that later. Because remember, technically, this beast of Revelation, the 13th chapter, is a 7-headed beast. It's so important that we understand this. Not only is it a 7-headed beast, but this 7-headed beast is a trifold 7-headed beast. For when we read the book of the Revelation, the 13th chapter, we'll find that according to verse 1, the Patmos prophet saw this beast coming up out of the waters, out of the ocean, and he had the mouth of a lion. Okay? So we have a lion here. All right? The lion representing the king of the quadruped world. Okay? And it said, it was also likened unto, it says there, leopard, lepardo in Greek language, but I liken it unto the cheetah, the fastest quadruped among the animals. There is no animal that can run as fast as the cheetah. See? Cheetah, the word, is Sanskrit. It's an Indian word. Cheetah. Spelled C-H-I-T-A. Sometimes we see it in our dictionary as C-H-E-E-T-A. The cheetah has been clocked, I believe, up to 70 miles per hour, something to that effect. And this particular trifold seven-headed beast also had the feet of a bear. See the bear there? Probably a grizzly bear. One thing we know that these animals have in common is that they are inherently, intrinsically, natively predators. Okay? The lion, a predator of man and beast. Okay? The cheetah, a predator against man and beast. Okay? Then, of course, the bear, the grizzly bear, is also a predator against man and beast. So you see, we know symbolically that the beast proscribed there in the book of the Apocalypse are actually human governments, predatorial human governments. It is so very, very vital that we understand the predatory nature of man without God. See? So this beastly government that the book of Revelation is talking about is simply human governments. Human nature devoid of the presence of Almighty Lord Shagabat in the life. And we have studied in the book of the Daniel and Revelation, in our discourses in the past, you can see the various animals. See? There is the lion there in the book of Daniel with 2 wings. There is the bear, Medo-Persia. And we have the cheetah with the 4 wings. See, the wings represent the speed of the cheetah. And of course, we have the nondescript beast here in Daniel, the 7th chapter, which we equate with the Roman Empire. And by the way, we are still in the Roman Empire. That's right. We are still in the Roman Empire, and the powers of the Roman Empire, as we have inherited many forms of culture and education from the last ruling world kingdom, which was Rome. See? And if you have studied the metallic image here, the feet that is mingled with clay and what? Iron. Well, iron is Rome, people. See? The legs of iron represented the western and the eastern portions of the Roman Empire. Okay? So if the toes of the metallic image, as you can see here, which is the whole of Babylon, that's what this whole image is. It's Babylon. Okay? And the iron in the feet represents the still influences and powers of the Roman Empire of antiquity made present in our pagan states, our modern pagan states. Okay, so that's why I say we're still in the Roman Empire. Okay, though chopped up in various pieces around the world, it's all Rome. Have you ever heard of the phrase, all roads lead where? To Rome. That's true. Politically, all roads lead back to Rome, people. Now, threshologically and ecclesiastically, all ecclesiastical roads leads back to Rome. That's right. All of the churches that came out of the vicissitudes of the Roman Empire leads back to Rome. Did you know that? Did you know when Jesus Christ was born, he was born in the Roman world setting? The Apostle Paul was a Roman citizen born in Tarsus. Emperor Constantine, according to tradition, became a Christian. See? So it behooves the church to study the history, and you'll find out that your particular ecclesiastical life may find its setting very comfortably back to Rome, and particularly papal Rome, Vatican Rome. See? Nevertheless, 37, the prime number of the threefold traditional seven-headed beast. But let me just share something with you regarding the number 37 as it relates to the apocalyptical beast. Okay? If you were to read the various features of this particular beast in Revelation the 13th chapter, beginning with verse 1. Let me tell you what you will discover, to your surprise, that this threefold, seven-headed traditional government has 37 features, 37 emphatic features. Listen, it composes of, number one, lion, cheetah, and bear. How many is that? That's 3, isn't it? So we have 3 features there. Now, how many heads does this beast have? It has 7 heads, doesn't it? Of course it does. So 7 heads plus lion, cheetah, and bear equals what? 10. Okay? Now, this beast also has 10 horns. You count them at your own leisure. 10 horns. Now we add 10 horns to 7 heads to the lion, the cheetah, and the bear. And what does that come out to, you mathematicians? That's 20 features right there, isn't it? Very good. Now, upon these horns were 10 crowns. Okay? 10 crowns. Well, let's add that up. 10 crowns plus 10 horns is what? 20. Plus 7 heads is 27. Plus lion, cheetah, bear, that's 30. Now, we have 30 emphatic features on this traditional animal. But we need 7 more something, don't we? Well, let's see if we can find it. Upon the heads of the apocalyptic beast were 7 names. Okay? And they're called blasphemical names on the 7 heads. Well, that makes 37. Would you like to go over that again? Let's try it. The beast is a threefold, 7-headed beast. I have to say it like this, people, because most of the teachers of the apocalypses, they never go into detail. They just say, mark of the beast, the beast, the beast. Well, that's not fair to a student who's seeking for the truth. The number of the beast, the mark of the beast. No, 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 my friends. It is the mark of the threefold, 7-headed beast. See the 3 and the 7? Because the prime number of the beast is 37. Anyway, let's go over those 37 features of the threefold, 7-headed beast in which the world, according to the Sabbath school disciplinarian prophets, are being warned not to countenance. Okay? Listen. The 37 bestial attributes or elements are these. Number 1, it is a lion, cheetah, and a bear. That's 3. Number 2, it has 7 traditional heads. lion, cheetah, bear, plus 7 traditional heads equals 10. It has 10 horns and 10 crowns. 10 horns plus 10 crowns plus 7 heads plus lion, cheetah, bear is 30. And finally, the beast, that is, the trifold 7-headed beast, has 7 names written upon their foreheads. 7 blasphemical names. I would go into those names for you, but time will not allow me at this point in time. You may write in to the golden option and ask me for more detail, and I'll try to get to your question. But all in all, the beast composes of 37 attributes, 37 qualities, 37 elements, 37 characteristics. And that is why we have 37. See? When we reduce the beast down from 666, the answer is 37. Why? Because I just showed you. There are 37 attributes of the beast. See? 37 times 3 to the second power times 2 equals 666. You see, you start from the bottom, not from the top. This is why Revelation, the 13th chapter and the 18th verse says, here is wisdom. Here is arithmetological wisdom. Let him. Who's the him? Is there a him that can understand and compute the number of the aquatic beast? Here is wisdom. Let the him that hath understanding compute the number of the beast. Not the him that do not have understanding compute the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man. That is an anthropological system, an anthropological apostate system. And the number is 37 times 3 to the second power times 2 equaling 666. But let me go back over to Babylon with you. Babel in Hebrew is 34, is that right? That's its geometrical number. But let me ask you a question. How many letters does it take to spell Babel in Hebrew language? Answer. 3 letters. So, what does deductive logic tell us now? 34 plus 3 letters equals what? Very good. It equals Babylon. Babel. Okay? And remember, I told you in the past, and it still holds true for the present and subsequently for the future, that the whole world is a product of ancient Babylon. the whole world. And the 7 traditional heads composed or composes of the whole world. Why? Because number 7 denotes completion, doesn't it? If you read the book of Revelation, how many times is 7 mentioned there in the book of Revelation? Some 54 times. The 7 alone. Because it is the number that stands for completion. So when you see the 7-headed dragon, the threefold 7-headed beast, it represents its totality. So we must use the biblical definitions of the names of the states of the world. The biblical definition in regards to the pagan states, and the biblical definition collectively call every country, every government, whether it be ecclesiastical, religiological, threskeological, sociological, whatever it is called. It's called Babel, Babylon. See? So the number 37 is what they gave to us as for the purpose of the grand functionings of the world, the man-made world. See? So no one can say, well, I don't have the number of the beast. Oh, yes, you do. For you are animated by it. Because Babylon, the ancient mother city, is the mother, yea, the grandmother of every metropolis in the world. Okay? And unfortunately, the Jerusalem of old, which is supposed to mean the habitation of peace, really never acquired the befitting name for habitation of peace. So, in one sense, you could not even call Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Ideally, yes, but for all intents and purposes and practicality, no. You would have to call Jerusalem Jerubabel Salem. See? Jerubabel Salam. And even today, people, you cannot call that place in the Middle East Jerusalem. There is no peace there. Now, the Hebrew word for war is milchama. Let me hear you say milchama. Milchama, that means war. Now, if you want to call Jerusalem in the Middle East today Jeru milchama, this would be the correct name, for it means habitation of war. Let me hear you say Jeru milchama. Very good. Now the Jerusalem, as we say in Hebrew, Yerushalayim Mima'al. This is the true Jerusalem, the Jerusalem above. Let me hear you say Yerushalayim Mima'al. Yerushalayim Mema'al means Jerusalem above. It is not of this world. Nevertheless, let us go back to the number 37, for this is indeed the essential prime number of the threefold traditional seven-headed dragon, beast, and false prophet, because collectively and in essence that's what it's all about. I also showed you that not only the 666, the 333, and the 111 are the numbers of the beast, okay, at least the prima facie numbers of the beast, but also 444, 555, 777, 888, and 999. These are all the prima facie numbers of the beast, including 666. But that's not what we're after. We want the prime number. Let me share something with you. 3 go into 111 how many times? 37. And that's what you want. Okay? Because 3 times 37 is 111. Okay? And each one of these numbers here, as you can see, the prime number of each one is 37. Okay? So it's very, very important, people, that we understand this. 111 divided by 3 is 37. 222 divided by 6 is 37. 333 divided by 9 is 37. 444 divided by 12 is 37. 555 divided by 15 is 37. 666 divided by 18 is 37. 777 divided by 21 is 37. 888 divided by 24 is 37. 999 divided by 27 is 37. Okay? So it is very, very important that we understand this. And if you want to add all of these numbers up together, the answer for all of these numbers is 4,995. Okay? Divided by 5 is 999. Okay? Now, of course, if you want to divide the 4,995 by, let's say, 135, that number will come out to 37. Okay? And I'll show you the function later on concerning the number of 27. Okay? Because 27 times 37 is 999. All right? So I'll show you the 27 in the one of the titles that was used on the Pope's tiara. Okay? You know, the tiara that the popes wear on the 18 days of inauguration of becoming popes. See? Why 18 days, people? Because 3 times 6 is what? 18. See? But the prime factor of the beast, ultimately speaking, comes out to be 9. Okay? Because we say 3 times 6 is 18. 1 and 8 equals 9. And of course, 9 is a powerful number. The whole series of 9s. See? Just think. The 9 is the last single digit of all numbers. Would you agree with that? It's the final single digit. Okay? And 99 is the what? The last of all double digits. See? And 999 is the last what? Of all triple digits. And it goes on and on ad infinitum. So that was a very, very good question, and this is the number of the beast. Now, I notice you also asked me concerning the 13 states and this number. That is the 50 states of our country, the yet-to-be United States of America. All right, let us start out this way. In the beginning, how many colonies did we have in the New World? We're told, and you could look on the back of your dollar bill, concerning the colonies, and you'll see the 13 stars right here. The 13 original colonies. And you see it there. It's shaped into the Mogan David, okay, the hexagram. Sometimes we'll go into that. Okay, 13 stars. And also we have the, if you count the feathers in the tail of the eagle, you have 9. But you have also 13 arrows in the talons of the eagle. But I'm not going to go into all of the detail now concerning the seal here on the back of the dollar. However, we started out with 13 original colonies. All right? Very good. You understand that. Now, let me write the 13 here. 13 colonies. Now, how many states are there in our union today? Okay? Not counting Washington, D.C. See, that's not considered necessarily a part of the states outside of that district. We have 50 states, don't we? Okay? That is including Alaska and Hawaii. Now, in order for me to get from the 13 colonies, 50 states, what would I have to add to 13? Answer. $37. Okay? All right, I'm just trying to share something with you people. This is the mystic number. And all of the nations have this number. Okay? They all have it. They were empowered by this mathematical equation in ancient times. Okay? So we started out with 13 states, and we added 37. Now we have 50 states. But I notice also you asked me the question here about Christmas, or as I like to refer to it, as Xmas. See, I cannot dignify that day after discovering that the 25th of December actually have nothing to do with the birth of, let's say, Christ. So to call it Christmas, it's actually degrading the messianic hopes. Christmas on the 25th of December. No. I like to just call it Xmas. See? Because that's who was born on that day. Xmas, not Christ. But then, nevertheless, let me show you about that. Now, We are told that December the 25th of every year, the celebration of the birth of Xmas is replicated. Okay? Why don't I just put December 25th there? All right? Now, according to the mythical mythologist, and of course you know who that is, this is the day which Xmas was born on. Okay? Not Jesus Christ, not the Hebrew Messiah. Perhaps a Gentile Messiah, but not the Hebrew Messiah, not the Hebrew Jew Israelite Messiah. Okay? Now we all agree and we concur with tradition, that is paradosis in Greek language for tradition, that we celebrate without question the birthday of the Hebrew Christ on the 25th of December. You agree? All right. May I ask you another question? Okay. From January to December are how many months? Anybody? Answer. 12 months. Do you agree with that? Or do you disagree with it? Well, the majority are impelled to agree with it. From January to December are 12 months. May I put 12 months here under the 25th of December? Very good. Now, let us add the 25th of December with the 12th month, and let's see what answer we get. Ready? Let's go. 5 plus 2 equals what? You're right. It equals 7. Perhaps the 7-headed dragon, huh? Because that's what the beast is all about, people. It's the threefold 7-headed beast. Now we add this side. 2 plus 1 equals what? 3. Remember we started out with the threefold 7-headed beast, and we found that there are 37 attributes, qualities, characteristics, and elements of the beast of Revelation, the 13th chapter and verse 1? Of course. Well, I hope that I answered that particular question for you, the prime number of the beast. I could go into more detail about the prime number of the beast, because in technicality, this whole concept of numerosophy that comes out of Babylon are based on the movements and the nature and function of the solar system. So we could call this zodiac, if you want to call it that, Ba-Zo-Sin-Beldiac, okay? Or Ba-Zo-Beldiac. See? But I put sin there because the power of sin is the animative force behind the bazo-beldiac. Okay? Let me hear you say bazo-symbeldiac. Of course. Well, I think somebody is telling me that my time is over, and I'm sorry that this hour is just so short. But next time, if I could go into more details concerning the 37 for you to make sure you understand, I'll be more than honored to do so. Well, somebody tells me it's over, but tune in next time to the golden option. Why? Because the option is yours. So remember, don't curse the darkness, light the candle. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Salam, salam, salam. May peace, repose, serenity, and bliss be upon us all.